Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Carolyn if you're new here, and today I'm going to try my very best to review and pitch the Southern Reach Trilogy by Jeff VanderMeer. I am going to try my best. I'm avoiding spoilers, but to explain to you why they're my favorite books of all time, why I can't stop talking about them, why I think they're genius, and if you have not already, to convince you to give them a shot. I am going to talk about kind of one book at a time, what stands out and why I loved each specific book, and then wrap it up by talking about why I think it's a fantastic trilogy and why all the books I think are fantastic together. So these are the books. First of all, fantastic art. Love these covers. Let's start with the first book, Annihilation. So, as far as I've seen, this is kind of the favorite that people have of the trilogy. If you've read them, that this kind of stands out as people's favorites, and I definitely understand why. So let me just briefly explain the synopsis, what's going on in this book, where it all leaps off from. So, the whole series is about this very mysterious environment called Area X that has basically just appeared, I think off the coast of Florida, all centered around a lighthouse and this anomaly in the environment that has kind of been contained by this border. And a government agency has been sending expeditions into Area X to figure out what it is, where it came from, why is it like this, and basically map the terrain. So this book sets off on the 12th expedition, so not going super well. All of the previous expeditions have been a disaster. Some examples, there was a mass suicide of expedition members, there was people that have come back riddled with cancer and have very quickly died, there are people who have come back in a zombie-like state who can't explain what they saw, what happened to them, any observations of this mysterious Area X. So we're leading off with our 12th expedition in hopes that it will go a little bit better. So it is made up of 4 women. We have the biologist, who's our narrator, then we have the psychologist, the surveyor, and the anthropologist. So we don't get any names, we don't get anything personal about these 4 characters, which I think is so brilliant, other than we get a little bit from our biologist because she's our narrator. And I think that VanderMeer kind of leaving it as their titles instead of any personal information about them is so brilliant, and I will explain why. So first, these 4 women are charged with mapping the terrain of Area X and also compiling any observations that they experience, basically writing down anything and everything in these journals that they're each given. So first of all, we are following our biologist, and it's not a spoiler to say she is deeply unreliable. It becomes very clear from the beginning she is already withholding information from her partners on this expedition, so tensions will rise. And I think what's so interesting about having them just listed as their titles, right? I think that's so fantastic because it kind of strips them of any other human identifiers, or kind of takes away all other parts of their identity and leaves them with kind of their base human instincts, human functions. And I think in this very uncanny environment, which I will talk about in a minute, that only helps to highlight and heighten by tenfold all of their human flaws and follies and issues, right? So I think what so many people love about this book, and I as well love it about this book, is the physical environment of Area X. It is fantastically written. It is so vivid. VanderMeer does a fantastic job with that. You go in and it is a pristine, utopian-like environment. It looks almost untouched by humankind, other than this kind of lighthouse that Area X is kind of centered around, which is really interesting. So we are studying the environment along with these 4 characters, but I think as readers we are also really studying these 4 characters. We are really studying them. They're our specimens. They are just as mysterious and flawed and kind of creepy as our environment. And I think what's so fantastic about this book is it goes from like beautiful descriptions to terrifying in a split second. It definitely has that claustrophobic feel, and I think what's so fantastic about this book is it definitely feels like a thriller. It is a thriller in all intents and purposes. It is kind of boiling to a head. It's very tense, the entire thing, and very quickly, even just amongst these 4 people, there are conflicting missions, there's drama, they all have a different idea of what to get out of these of this mission that they're on. And kind of when things get a little bit dangerous, tensions obviously rise. So I think this book, I understand why it's people's favorites. I think it sets up the rest of the trilogy perfectly. I think the highlights of this book are characters, following them, not trusting them. They're so bizarre, but then also the environment is fantastically written. So it's uncanny, it's weird. You want to read more about it. You're desperate to understand what's going on here, but you're not going to, obviously. So then I think, I'm just looking at my notes because I did take a little bit of notes because I read these last year and I feel like obviously I'm already a little bit removed from them. So you kind of set this book down. It was a fantastic wild ride. You're obsessed with learning more about the characters. You think Area X is fantastic and you are just excited to pick up the next book in the series called Authority in hopes of getting more answers. And sorry to disappoint you, you will not get the answers you want in this book. So I have seen that of the 3 books, this is largely the most unpopular. It is markedly different from Annihilation in plot, in feel, but it's still fantastic. So this book kind of draws us out of Area X, but do not worry, we will return, so don't get upset if you're like missing the uncanny weirdness of the physical environment of Area X. You will return there. But this is a bureaucratic, governmental book. So we are stationed in the Southern Reach Government Agency, which is right outside the border of Area X, and we are following a man named Control. This is the alias that he goes by, which again, similar to only learning the titles of the 4 expeditioners, and he is stepping into a role of authority in this obviously failing government agency. It's not going super well. Obviously. So I think what is so fantastic about this one, you're not going to get the answers you want. VanderMeer does give you like little bits and like nibbles of pieces that keep you interested to go into the next book. He is desperately trying to figure out his place in this government agency. He is charged with basically revitalizing these expeditions and kind of getting new blood pumping in this obviously failing mission, right? But Control is essentially like overwhelmed by this paranoia. This book is paranoid to the highest degree. Control feels like he's being followed, listened to, watched. He knows that he's not privy to all the information that he needs to kind of do his job. And he is kind of trying to piece together all the personalities that have gone on expeditions past and also all of the people that he's supposed to be working in harmony with in this government agency. Obviously, that is not the case. So this book, kind of the mysteries of Area X, while we are still getting bits and pieces of them and while we are still fascinated by them, almost take a back seat to the mysteries of all the different players that Control is trying to figure out, right? Because a normal person would not just willingly go into Area X when it has gone so poorly for all members past. So he is figuring out the new players in this expedition, trying to uncover basically who they are, why they chose to go in this, what are they hiding, and that is fantastically done in my opinion. This book is so tense. It definitely feels a little bit slower than Annihilation, but I think rightfully so. I was not bored at any point. And then we do get kind of a little bit more Area X, right? We do get some like security footage. We do get bits and pieces of the environment that Control is trying to understand. But really, Control, we're just watching this man mentally deteriorate under the pressure, under the inability to understand what's going on. And he is just not getting the information that he needs. But he is nonetheless wholeheartedly trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And I think he is a fantastic narrator and a fantastic person to read from because he is also riddled with human flaws and we don't trust him, but we see that we are uncovering secrets along with him. So loved this one. Give it a chance. I know that it's a little bit slower. It doesn't have all the uncanny weirdness of Annihilation, but you will get that again when you step into Acceptance. So, in this book, we are back in Area X. And this book, I think, is maybe the weirdest. Maybe Annihilation. I think this might be the weirdest because throughout the previous 2 books, as readers, you are desperately trying to conceptualize this environment and understand what's going on. You're kind of trying to come up with theories, but also not really because you're just riding the wave. But what VanderMeer does in this book is he takes all kind of base human truths that we hold dear and one by one plucks them off, destroys them, and leaves you at ground zero. So in this book, VanderMeer's playing with time, with gravity, with the idea of borders, all of these things that help us as people conceptualize our world. And he's not letting us do that in this book, which I think is so fantastic. I really, really loved the ending of this book. If you are a reader who needs answers, you might be frustrated. And that is not a criticism at all. I understand, like, if you read a whole series, you're going to want answers, and I think you deserve them. And VanderMeer gives you enough to hold on to satisfy kind of the curiosity in us. But also the whole series is about kind of humans' inability to understand things outside of our scope, right? And our kind of the limits we put on human knowledge. And so he's not going to give us all the answers, because this is about the fact that humans can't know it all, right? And our inability to be objective. We are deeply biased creatures. So I really, really enjoyed this book. It is a weird one. It is, you feel like you are on just a long trip. You might enjoy that. I don't know. So I will now try to wrap up why I think these books are fantastic as a unit. And each, they're not super long, so you can kind of take breaks. I read them one after the next because I just physically couldn't function without knowing what was going to happen next. But again, let's just talk about major themes running through all of these books. Like I said before, human follies, human flaws, humans' inability to be objective, to understand things outside of kind of the limits of our mind. It is about non-human life and our relationship to our environments. And I think something so fantastic that I should have mentioned before, I'm sorry, that VanderMeer is playing with is the idea of, as humans, we contaminate our environment. We leave these footprints, we leave these markers on our environment, and we are degrading them. But in these books, the environment is contaminating the humans, which I think is fantastic. I think it's so, so smart. And kind of in this last book, in Acceptance, you really can imagine VanderMeer like in his writer's workshop, surrounded by candles with 5-hour energy bottles littering the floor, just trying to like follow all the trails of his own genius, and trying to piece it together for us. So, fucking loved this book. But it really is about kind of the absurdity of borders, because it's supposed to be that this border is kind of holding in Area X, and that's kind of a way that humans can understand it, and that this government agency is trying to attack Area X and figure it out through this border. I just think these books are truly genius. I hope you will give them a shot. I think, okay, let's talk about who will love this book, these books. I think, again, it has thriller elements. If you're a thriller lover, you will love these books. If you love fantasy, you will love these books. Obviously, the environment feels fantastical. If you are an eco-fiction lover, you will love these books. Like I mentioned in my recent vlog, VanderMeer is writing with a purpose. He's an eco-warrior writer. He is writing for the environment, and I love that. I'm right there with him. I will read anything he writes. Yes, I just think these books are so, so fantastic. I hope that I've convinced you to give them a shot. I would love to hear if you choose to pick them up, or if you've already read them. And even if you have very differing opinions from my own, I would still love to chat about it across the internet. Please message me, comment here. I will always talk about these books. I will absolutely reread them. I think that now, knowing what I know, I would read with a very different lens almost now. So I will absolutely reread these in the future. Actually, there is a movie adaptation of just Annihilation, which I don't think is a great portrayal of what the book actually entails, but it does kind of give us a visual to work with of Area X, and it does have the very trippy, weird vibes. So I think it definitely is a movie worth watching, just so you can kind of understand what Area X looks like, to give you something to work with. I hope I made a little bit of sense. Hopefully I convinced you to try them. This is kind of the first dedicated review video I've done, so I'm sorry if it wasn't perfect. I'm trying my best, and I don't want to spoil anything. But if you're interested in more videos like this that are dedicated reviews to like one book or a series, please let me know. I think I would enjoy doing that. I think it kind of challenges me to think about them a little bit deeper. Yes, but if you decide to read these books, if you've read them before, please reach out to me. Please comment. I would love to chat about them. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And please subscribe if you feel so inclined. And I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, everyone.